do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Fucking thing sucks.
Right. We do a live show for this week. We're going to do this again. It's been a little while, but I'm Mike, he, him from the Turn Left This podcast. We also got Ward, he, him from the Turn Left This podcast. Nick, he, him from the Intervention podcast. Brandon, he, him from the Cars and Comrades podcast. And Nat, he, him from the Collective Action Comics podcast. How you guys doing?
It's a day.
Yeah.
It's a fucking day.
That's for sure.
Brandon had just had a coughing fit. That's about apt, I guess. How you guys been enjoying the you guys been enjoying like our unofficial hiatus? Anybody be getting anything done?
Had one random night off, it kind of springs up spontaneously, but that's all right.
I've been so busy doing stuff on the actual ground that like I have not had time to do even my own stuff. So
I've been
that was
drunk
sort
the
of a
whole time.
blessing in disguise.
Oh yeah, Brandon. I don't know if it came through, but Brandon said he's been drunk the whole time. So
Oh hell
fuck
yeah. Based.
But yeah, I mean, it's not like there's been anything going on in the news or anything. I don't think there's been any major news events that we could talk about, but we could try. I mean, what's the biggest thing? Is the balloon? Fucking no. I think actually what I wanted to start with was the So is it Palestine we're talking about in Ohio? If we're trying
I
to
heard that on a
differentiate
news
from
report.
Palestine, I think. East
Yeah, I
Palestine.
heard a local reporter talking about it, and she called it East Palestine. So
Okay, well
we
then
can't
let's.
pronounce anything right here. So
I would
us
just go
guys.
with Palestine just to make the distinction between Palestine. So apparently in East Palestine, Ohio, there was this train that derailed and it spilled a bunch of toxic chemicals. And did it kill anyone? I actually am not sure if anyone died from it.
Not
but
yet.
Yeah, I was gonna say like, if it hasn't yet, it still could.
That's the whole thing about it, right? Is the long-term health effects that are going to be from this. Like they're predicting a lot of people are going to get sick with some kind of symptoms that are I guess, what do you call it? Unique to chlorine syndrome or chlorine gas, which is what came out of this train. And other people will probably suffer long-term cancers or other kind of like, there could be birth defects. Like who the hell knows? Because it's poisoning every bit of like infrastructure around there. It's like in the ground, the air, the water, everything. And I don't know. I don't know what the long-term effects would be, but like
Well, they did offer all the residents $5 each, so that should cover any long-term health effects.
Oh, okay. All
yeah,
good.
that's a nice hazmat right there. $5. Go down to Walmart and get a full bodysuit for $5.
Yeah.
Hey, that's like 3/4 of the way towards a dozen eggs.
And I'll tell you what, as someone that lives about 40 miles away from where this happened with a well, feeling pretty good. Feeling pretty good.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, I had no idea you were that close to it.
Yeah.
I don't even think I realized we were that close to it.
Yeah, it's not too far.
Yeah, it looks like the smoke is like vinyl chloride, phosgene, hydrogen chloride, and yeah, some other stuff that they don't even know because just how many different loads were on this train.
Oh, and
Well, like there's a lot of
apparently,
mustard gas in there.
apparently
Well-
at least some of it was mislabeled so that they could save money on the shipping costs.
Gotta love it.
I hate this fucking place.
Okay, so that was the thing. There are a lot of different takeaways from this, right? Like we can talk about obviously the fact that the company is not going to take accountability or be held accountable for doing this, like to the extent that it would actually help the people who are going to be damaged by it. But then also there was the aspect that the workers of this company literally predicted this kind of thing would happen if the workers' rights were cut, if the shifts were cut, if the skeletonizing of the crews that happened, which of course it did, and then if they, relaxed the regulations to such an extent that they were able to mislabel these loads like this, and then have a disaster like this happen. So the workers again predicted this. Credit to Bill Killian Harrison on our server who said the workers predicted this would happen. The bosses didn't listen. Who could have thunk it? Like that's exactly the take here. But
Yeah, and then to get into coverage, I mean, you can find like people that, do their stuff through, Instagram or TikTok or whatever it is, actually trying to, talk to union organizers, and they're kind of connecting those dots between like the recent, potential rail strike, or at least the rail struggles that went on lately. And like these guys are saying explicitly, as you're talking about right now, it's like, look, this is the shit that we were trying to prevent. And the federal government is directly responsible at this point for imposing these conditions upon us. We, like you said, we knew this was coming and everything like that. And now here we are. But that's obviously that angle, as we know, will not be covered by like the mainstream media, right?
yeah, I mean, if you want more serious breakdowns, I always recommend listening to Ben Norton's show, which is now the Geopolitical Economy Report. He's not the multipolarista anymore. But also Brian Becker. I just subscribed to the audio version of Means TV, whatever their audio podcast, their RSS feed is. You can just find it very easily. But they all do very in-depth analyses of this situation exactly, and that is just the TLDR of the whole thing. Was the workers predicted this would happen? It happened. The company's going to skate. They're giving people a fucking pittance for the massive damage that they've done. That's going to affect people for decades and literally lives to come. And yeah, it's a very familiar story. I don't know. Does anybody ever have any other takes we could like segue from, like, or anything else to say about the railroad disaster or anything about that? I guess because to me it feels like the balloon may have been a distraction from that. I don't not even in a conspiratorial way, but just like maybe the media focus was like focused on the balloon because that is sensational, as opposed to like literally the U.S. throwing its citizens to the what do you call it, to the graveyard. Like,
And they
because they just do not
sensationalized the
care about
fuck out of the balloon.
it. It
Make
does not
all
fucking
China
matter, dude.
bad.
It's
Like,
so
it's
fucking dumb.
crazy.
No, it's very dumb. But I did want to say one last thing on that, and it's just, people talk about us being like conspiracy theorists or anything like that, or having sort of a warped view of the world. But like, what kind of view must someone have of like reality and the world that they live in when they know that that the actions they take can and did lead to literally destroying an entire town, and they know they can just get away with it? Like, what does that do to somebody psychologically? And like, how does that change their internal relationship, like, to the world around them? It's I mean, these are the monsters that we are fighting, right? Brandon?
Yeah.
Do we know the actual cause of the derailment? I haven't followed this super closely. I've just heard the tidbits here and there.
I don't know.
I'm going to be
don't either.
speaking in generalities here, but I think you can point directly towards lack of maintenance on the tracks themselves, or I don't know if it was the tracks themselves or on the car themselves, but I mean, it was something that a rail,
Sounds like.
it was something that, again, one of the rail workers that I was talking about earlier was very easily able to identify as like, look, if we had kind of like the resources to address this, it could have been taken care of, and like, this is not even like an isolated event in the sense that there was another derailment in that area not too long ago. I think the difference being with the other car was that it was carrying candle wax, so obviously much less harmful to the environment and shit like that. So that didn't even show up on our radar, right? But like the fact remains that this infrastructure is shit, right?
Yeah,
So,
I want to say I read
but-
somewhere one time that like the amount of derailments that the U.S. has is just absolutely astronomical compared to almost any other nation.
I believe it. Without any
Yeah, for, like, the
investigation,
level
I
of
100%
development.
believe it.
Yeah, but let's point the finger at China, right? Like let's look at China, right?
Look at all those
We
trains in
wouldn't-
China
wouldn't
that
talk
work.
about infrastructure and rail development. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I
No,
mean,
I
so
get
what
it.
is the?
I can't
This
look at a
is-
map of high-speed rail in China without going off the fucking handle.
Yeah.
Without going off the rails.
You can tell I'm not on my game when I miss
I
that.
say that
joke.
was low hanging fruit, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I love low-hanging fruit. It's the most delicious.
What is the? Does anybody have a take on the balloon? As like an original take? Because like I listened to all the other leftist mediaites and everything. Yeah, it just still seems like a big joke to me. I don't understand what the. It just feels like a very very desperate attempt by the U.S. to provoke something at all, because it's like China just keeps. Like, does it seem to you guys like China is just like the strong man who just keeps getting punched at by like the little scrawny guy, and he just is standing there just like
Yeah.
mildly annoyed, like, just stop doing this, like, because that is the US's only move, is to provoke and then to respond with aggression, like overly, to anything that it deems as a threat because it provoked that response to begin with. It's like it's so tiring, and I just am glad that other countries are catching on to it and then kind of coalescing amongst themselves to like recognize that pattern and not respond to it in the way that gets them toppled with any kind of justification whatsoever. But do you have something, Nick?
This all just feels like the process of manufacturing consent.
Yeah,
They've
100%.
They've decided to go to war with China, and now they have to create an atmosphere that will be friendly towards that. Like,
Yeah,
what
they
was
gr-
the
they
fucking
grasp at
general that
straws for
said that will
anything.
be? What's up?
Oh, I was just saying they'll grasp at anything for propaganda.
Yeah,
Sure,
or
but,
they'll
like-
we just assume that they're doing already what they accuse somebody else of doing. I'm sorry, Brandon, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh no, you're good. there was the general that said that we're going to be at war with China by 2025. That now we've got the balloon, and just generally like the increasingly aggressive like villainizing of China over the past few years, especially since COVID. It's just something like this balloon. Just it doesn't seem special to me. I feel dumber for having lived through that experience, but like it's obvious that it's just a very small piece of the puzzle, and the larger puzzle is a global conflict with China.
Yeah,
I thought I had seen everything. Like I thought that I'd seen like I thought I'd stared into the abyss last February through like April with the like invasion of Ukraine, with the most like absurd like nonsense propaganda. Um right? Like the ghost of Kiev or Kiev or whatever. Obviously not true. Snake Island, everybody lived. The Bucha massacre was, or Busha, I don't know how you say it. It was like Adar battalion in right sector. It wasn't Russia. Like every single thing that they told us that Russia did was done by Nazis in Ukraine, right? And probably some American troops that were already stationed there that were like training them, right? And I thought that was the depths of depravity. But then to see this absolute fucking meltdown over what the DoD has said is a weather balloon, that they knew was a weather balloon fucking 5 days before they even put it in headlines. Like I'm actually really quite astounded.
Yeah, and
Like
then
like
what
in
they
all
try to
seriousness, like beyond all the jokes and all that, like that is something that's like genuinely like mind blowing.
Yeah, and then they still try to, even after the hysteria, like they try to like glorify like the photos of like the Navy out there like collecting the fragments, after they wasted $400,000 on a Stinger missile to shoot a fucking balloon out of the sky, right? And then the articles come out on CNN after, and it's like, Navy indicates they found equipment capable of intercepting or capable of intelligence espionage or signal intelligence espionage and shit like that, right? So it's like the same shit that we see over and over again. It's like these vague terms that nobody fucking gets, but as soon as you think about it for a second, it's like, well, what is it exactly? Like capable? Why are you putting this kind of qualifier on it and shit like that? And it's just like, again, like you guys said, it's just the manufacturing consent machine, the inventing reality machine is fucking ceaseless. And now I guess my question is like, how much are people actually buying into it? Because I guess just in the conversations that I've had with like friends, family, and other people, it's been a little bit mixed in terms of like some people like immediately recognize it as bullshit and other people are a little bit more skeptical. But I guess one thing that I'm hopeful about is that more people have recognized that well, they just think we're fucking dumb and we're not that dumb. Then, you know what I mean? Like, so I think that was a good thing.
I'm pretty dumb.
I just honestly want to see somebody who really believes this was in any way a flex for the US to spend what it spent to shoot down this fucking weather balloon, to like make this big ordeal out of this, to literally make much ado about nothing. Like this was embarrassing, dude. Like on a national level, like this should absolutely be embarrassing for your national pride if you still believe in like America, like whatever, at whatever fucking level. Like even if you're just a liberal and you think you're critical of the empire, like in whatever position you may be as a neoliberal who is like literally not critical of the empire in any way whatsoever in any meaningful sense, it's like, I don't know. I want to see somebody who legit believes this was like a heroic thing that Biden did or whatever. It's like, because who was it saying that like Ward or somebody was saying that like people were mad that he didn't shoot it down sooner. Like Biden should have shot it down. Like they fucking. It's like, what is going on here? Like this is fucking asinine behavior on a national level. What are you guys talking about? Like,
Oh, I think I posted in our group chat. I think I posted the most brain dead fucking like liberal take that I've ever seen was from a guy who has the audacity to call himself Pinko Joe, and he made like a cartoon about it that said, "Just saying, Trump's there were 3 Chinese balloon incursions during the Trump administration, and he didn't shoot down any of them."
That must be
Like,
Vouch.
good.
Vouch.
Good. I'm glad he did not.
Oh my god, I forgot.
Well, I
about
mean,
that.
and that's like the brain dead conservative, like radio, like Tucker Carlson kind of take that I've seen. It's just like, well, Trump would have never allowed this attack on our sovereignty. It's like, oh my fucking god! Like, It's not even worth expending the energy to respond to sometimes, you know?
2 points, though, to respond to it. 1, technically, he did not defend our sovereignty. And 2, it's good that he didn't because China should take our sovereignty away from us.
Based.
Yes. Well, and that was like the biggest flex. It was just like, I mean, the essence of Xi's response was, hey, just calm the fuck down. This isn't a big deal. Like, just chill the fuck out. You know what I mean? Like,
The adult in the room.
yeah, like, relax. Relax.
Whoops,
gonna ask, like,
sorry.
From an informed perspective, I'm going to ask the dumbest possible question. Was this even actually a Chinese balloon?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't
Chinese
know.
weather balloon.
I-
Yeah, China admitted it was theirs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the DoD
Oh,
knew like
yeah, I
5
did read
days
that, okay.
before they started publishing headlines. They knew it was a weather balloon because it crossed into Alaska.
I was going to ask Ward if you had your price breakdown handy
Yeah, I'm trying
of
to
what it
pull
cost the
up real
U.S. to
quick.
shoot it down. Like Ward, being the thorough guy that he is, as soon as we started talking about this weather balloon and they shot it down, just being the military nerd that you are, did a price
Yeah.
breakdown of exactly what it cost the U.S. I guess with their salaries and what it cost to run these jets, the fuel and the missiles used and everything. It ended up being an absurd number that I mean, I can't say I'm surprised. I mean, we all know
Yeah,
what
it's
the U.S.
like
spends.
about 400,000 for the one AIM 9X Sidewinder missile, 140,000 per hour for the two F-22
Oh, yeah.
fighter
Oh,
jets.
yeah.
Wait, is that each or
18,000
for the pair?
That's for the pair
Okay.
together. It's 70K an hour for a single F-22, and there's two of them flying for that mission.
Well, you got to have
there's a-
backup in case the balloon whips something big out.
Right.
Oh yeah, and they're up there for a while, so they had to have a strato tanker, like one of those air refueling planes, up there with them, and that's 18,000 per hour as well. And then they had a Coast Guard HC-130, which was 10,000 per hour, and P-81, which is like the Navy's Boeing 737, which is like for surveillance. That was up there for 11,000 per hour,
Oh, yeah.
roughly.
Thank God we do
America.
that instead of like,
Fuck
I
yeah.
couldn't figure out
funding-
how many
funding
hours
healthcare,
the
you know,
mission was, but
My girlfriend, who is a teacher, cannot work in public schools right now because they don't have the money for COVID protections.
Yeah.
What could $400,000 buy in masks and COVID protections? Quite a bit.
Or a complete overhaul of the school's ventilation system.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll give $500,000 to the fucking school, right?
are you not
Make
happy
the
about
kids
that?
safe. What?
You're not happy we spent that much money to shoot down a balloon?
You guys are looking at it all wrong. Like, for some perspective, that's probably only like 0.0000001% of the military budget. Like, they barely.
Ugh.
It was
I
basically
hate this
free.
fucking country.
I mean, earlier today they shot down a UFO above Alaska with another F-22 firing an AIM 9X Sidewinder missile. So there's another $500,000 at least.
I'm going to need a lot more explanation on the sentence you just said.
Yeah. I was going to ask, Ward, that's a fantastic segue, but we also should note that, we are recording this the night of, it's the 10th.
Yeah, there's still
today.
a lot of info that needs to be come out. So nitty gritty, several hours ago, up at 40,000 feet above Alaska, they shot down a UFO, unidentified flying object. So it showed no signs of manned crews nor any form of maneuverability. This aircraft was MSN made sure to make ink size comparison. This is way smaller than the Chinese weather balloon, which was several large city buses in size. This is a couple cars.
How many Big Macs would that be?
Huh.
Oh, probably 15 to 25,000, roughly, if I had to guess. And
Sorry,
then
What
that's
is it? The
we forget we're-
dryers, the washing machines in the
Yeah.
holes or whatever.
We may not be
Yeah.
happy about it, but we are American, so let's measure things properly.
How many
many
gas
Big Macs
stoves,
would
brother?
floating washer.
I love that we all have
One of those
just an
stacked
instant
units?
ridiculous measurement that we all said at the same time.
Yeah, the fuck is a kilometer?
Yeah, right.
I think that's 25,000 Big Macs long.
Oh, okay. All right. I can picture that. Thank you.
I'm here for you.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Yeah,
I
but
wish I
that's
had a-
basically all we really know about the UFO.
What
He
if it
shot
was
it
the
down and they
Tesla re-entering
recovered it.
orbit?
Oh,
I love that. Like,
That would
there-
be sick.
there are fundamentally two options for us shooting down a UFO. Is one, it was something infinitely stupider than a UFO, or two,
Oh, absolutely.
there was life intelligent enough to come to Earth and say, "What's up?" And we were like, "No, dead."
Yeah, I doubt that. I doubt we'd be able to shoot it down if that were the case. But I
It's
was
for
going to
sure,
ask
but-
you, Ward. I think you're a little more versed on like Caitlin Johnstone's writing than I am, or at least probably from around this time that she was writing about the UFOs. Because there was that time, I want to say it's like 6 months or maybe even a year ago, where
Yeah,
government
when
decided it
government,
was
like,
yeah. They
Yeah, the
just decided
government
it's really
released
cool
like
to release all this.
1,800 pages on UFOs and like admitted UFOs are a real thing.
Video.
And, like,
But they do that all the
yeah,
time,
no,
right?
it's
No,
yeah,
no.
it's just
This
mean,
was
that
slightly
could-
more remarkable than usual.
Yeah,
A lot of
Yeah.
even like because I listen to some more entertaining like conspiracy theory podcasts, like not like the Jews did it all conspiracy theories, but that like aliens are real conspiracy theories. And a lot of them don't even believe that it's a real release. They think that it's a distraction tactic for something else. But
the old
ones who-
limited hangout.
yeah, the ones that do believe in it are actually like pretty interested because some of the stuff that got like released officially had been leaked previously and is still unexplained. There was some curious things that got released.
Wasn't
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wasn't it initially around the time like when like there was the big hoopla around the release, like around when there was some pending info about the JFK assassination or some shit like that?
That was
Like, it
several
was
months
like-
later, right?
That's been
Yeah,
pending
yeah,
for
that was-
years, but
those separate.
No, I understand, but like there was some like story about like how this was coming out, and then there was I don't know. My point is that it was in conjunction with some other kind of like impending like State Department like release, and the thing I remember about it was that it almost seemed like it was intended to be some kind of like obfuscation of
Mhm.
like this more material thing that was supposed to be coming out. You know what I mean?
That would make
But
sense.
like, hey, look at the UFOs, right?
Yeah, I thought it was a more perfunctory thing than apparently it was, but I can absolutely see it being like running cover for something else.
Mhm.
Obviously, it's a
Yeah,
little
like
off topic
you-
from what we're talking tonight.
Like you guys, I don't believe that our government is benevolent enough to just be like, "Hey guys, UFOs and aliens are real," and there's no pretext or anything behind it. Like this is all a ploy to just be able to weaponize space so that we can have weapons against China.
Yeah.
if you want to
Okay.
get more creative about it, which I do enjoy doing, even though I don't believe it, is that they are just like easing us into the fact that like, oh, we know aliens are real. That was like an active theory amongst like ufologists. Ufologists? Yeah, it's a real term.
Yeah, I think it's ufologists, which is
Yeah.
very frustrating.
But to what end? Like, just because they realize they cannot contain it anymore, and therefore they have to do some kind of controlled or damage control in that way, and then they release it slowly? Is that
Yeah, they got put out in DLCs,
Yeah.
Washington
like
DLC.
seasons.
I mean, that was the reason where that I had even brought up Caitlin Johnson to begin with, because I just honestly, I just love her judgment on a lot of these issues, because I feel like she just looks at whatever news she's reading, is like either I don't have access to it, or she's just reading between the lines of the stuff that we all have access to. So I don't know, but I remember her just writing extensively about the government doing this, and I felt like if anyone was going to have a good take on why they would do this, and I guess the most cynical take on why the government would feel the need to release this kind of info at this particular time, and the things I remember are what you guys just said. It's like prepping people for more weaponization of space, bigger Space Force budgets or whatever, or justifying just keeping that fucking open to begin with after like having clown Trump started. Like, I don't know, because how many people on the liberal side were claiming that like it was so ridiculous that Trump even did that, and then they were going to shut it down as soon as we got a Democrat in office. It's like, is the Space Force gone? Like, I don't know. I haven't kept up with it. I also
Once they
don't give
got
a
Steve
fuck, like-
Carell on
No,
the
it's
cast
there.
for the Netflix show,
It's
it was
still
all
there.
over.
It's still a thing.
Yeah, it's there.
Yeah.
They've
Space
leaned
Force is
into
there.
it as best as I can tell. Like it's not high
Mhm.
profile, but it's
getting
not
built
going
up,
away.
yeah.
Yeah.
All they had to do was make a joke about it on Netflix so that we just like stopped considering it, and then they could just keep throwing money at it.
Normalized, baby.
Yeah, they're
Mhm.
filling the officer corps with like Air Force and Navy personnel and contractors.
Yeah. So then it was all part of the continued weaponization of space, bloated military budgets, and then increased tensions with China and Russia, probably tying in with like Elon Musk and his fucking satellite weaponry somehow. I wouldn't be surprised at all. But let me go with Nick, then Brandon, and then Ward.
Me first. Me first. I
Okay.
don't give a shit. I actually just because I didn't want, like, I'm already drunk, so don't, like, just bear with me.
Yeah, man.
I actually watched that show on Netflix because I'm a trash person, and I like Steve Carell. And it was also, not only was it like Space Force propaganda, it was also acutely anti-China propaganda.
Oh, of course.
No, really? Like,
Yeah.
I would never
Yeah.
deign to watch it.
Yeah, I'm not proud of the fact that I did. I put on a lot of stuff that's dog shit in the background because I'm like ADD as fuck and like can't focus on just 3 things at a time. But yeah, there was like a whole subplot throughout the show where like the Chinese were competing with the Space Force and trying to fuck us over at every turn. I really felt the need to bring that full circle thing where like not only
Yeah.
was it like a weird Space Force thing, but it was also a weird anti-China thing.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Sorry about that, Nick. Go ahead.
No, you're good. Ward, if you've got something on this, I have something that might take us in a different direction. So
Yeah,
go
mine's
ahead with
like,
that.
yeah, mine's on this real quick. I think they admitted the whole UFO thing and released the documents about the same time I saw only a couple news articles covering the fact that like for the first time in decades, the U.S. Army is starting to paint its land vehicles green again.
Huh.
So what's the implication there then?
We're not fighting the
For
desert
the-
anymore.
Yeah, we're not fighting in the fucking desert anymore. We're not
Yeah, I
prepping
get that,
for
but
that
then
anymore.
what's the connection between that and then UFOs? It's like just a distraction.
No, that
I
in
guess?
China.
No, I'm not saying it's correlated. I'm just saying I think it's came out about the same time. It's all that weaponization against China ultimately.
Mm.
Well, also, if we're painting them like green, they'll blend in with the aliens.
You know that if we go to war with China, they're rounding everyone on this show up.
Oh, of course. I mean, but see, that's the thing, man. I keep thinking that what we are doing is such a joke, literally, and not even figuratively. Like that I'm literally asking on this show, on recordings and publishing it. It's like whatever is supposed to be the secret Chinese propaganda arm that would fund us, like, please fucking hit me
Yeah,
up. It
give me
is
some
turnleftthis at gmail.com. Like, I am begging for it. Like, I will do the whatever for the G-Bucks. I'm doing it anyway. Like, you guys are not paying me shit, and I'm doing it for free just because I like you guys. Like,
I wish Chinese propaganda was as good as they say it is, because like I have to go way out of my fucking way to go find anything from a Chinese perspective on the internet.
and you know what?
I'm-
I've been in some Telegram channels. I've seen some actual Russian propaganda, and I've sent it to like my group chats of like my liberal friends because I feel like they think that I'm just ingesting Russian and Chinese propaganda all day, every day. And I really think that like it's not that good. Like it's just not. And the things that I've seen, like I remember seeing there was an ad and it was like some people, it was like a Russian family on a plane to the US and they encountered some basically like liberal bullshit. It was like a very reactionary commercial. They encountered like somebody who was identifying as different pronouns that they presented, and like some bullshit about like it was like there was some race element to it, and it was like really fucking weird and just reactionary. And I'm like, if this is supposed to be Russian propaganda that is hypnotizing me, it's fucking not
That's not
it's
it.
not passing. It's not up to par. What do you have, Nick? Sorry.
Yeah, no, and I think it's tied into that point, and also something that you mentioned about Katie Johnstone, and as fucking fantastic as she is, like she's an amazing writer, and I rely on her quite a bit. But like, just in terms of like seeing through like the propaganda, I mean, in relation to the conversation that we're having right now about China, I mean, you know, we've got our positions on this, and like I think it's well known at this point for the people that listen to us. But then, you know, you can go back a little bit further, right? Look at, you know, what people like us were saying about like Nord Stream, right? What they were saying, yeah, like Nord Stream, and what they were saying about like what was going on in Iran at that time. And this is just relates to like what the US narrative is on a given topic, right? And I think that given recent developments from like Seymour Hersh and the Shah in Iran releasing, you know, all these prisoners that were supposedly executed. I mean, again, we've been validated.
Do we know
right?
they
So like,
weren't
I have no
executed
fucking.
before they were released?
I have no fucking reason to believe that what we think about China right now, in relation to the U.S., is not true either, because we're fucking validated time and time again, right?
Yeah,
Because
it
we can
sucks
look
being
at
right.
like what the material conditions are and like what the situation is with imperialism with respect to these situations going on, and like somehow it always fucking works out, doesn't it?
point, like if you've been paying attention for more than 7 or 8 minutes, the U.S. becomes the boy who cried wolf,
Yes.
and you can't trust a single fucking thing that they say. Like, Russia blew up their own fucking pipeline because fuck
when it's
billions of dollars.
45% of when natural gas is 45% of their fucking state revenue.
Is that
Okay.
true? Jesus
Yes.
Christ.
Yeah. That's what's kept Russia afloat since 1991.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I'm
I
not
think,
gonna get into that, but yeah.
I'm almost entirely sure it was Ben Norton again that I just listened to. I mean, this is literally all I do is listen to other people's podcasts while I'm at work. But he had a
Same.
great breakdown of exactly the numbers behind the Nord Stream pipeline and why it was like just not even plausible to suggest that anyone but the U.S. blew it up. And then discussed even like the military exercises that went on 6 to 12 months earlier. And the U.S. was like bragging about them in just mainstream headlines, saying that they were putting these like underwater devices, doing like these underwater exercises right at the Nord Stream pipeline. Biden is saying in press conferences openly that if Russia invades Ukraine, as in putting tanks on the ground, that they will make the Nord Stream 2 not happen. And the press or somebody in the press asked him like, "Well, how will you do that?" And he's just like, "Don't worry about it. We got ways." It's like, wow, like okay,
I promise
just like
you. I
really
promise you
fucking
we'll do it.
brazen. Like,
Yeah.
ah,
Yeah. And
so
then you can just look at Hirsch's history, right? Like
Right.
he exposed My Lai, right?
Okay,
Proves
but
out to be
let's
true.
let's
He
analyze
exposed
him.
he exposes Abu Ghraib, right? Turns out to be fucking true. So why should I believe the State Department who says this shit is utterly false over this guy who's been proven right by history?
I was
Because
just
the
going to
State
make a
Department
joke.
told Reuters and Libs read that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I was
The
just going to make a
Associated
joke
Press
that it's
said
been a
it,
while since he.
therefore I believe it.
sorry, Brandon, what was that? We keep
I
getting
tried to
out.
make my joke 4 times. It
Sorry.
doesn't matter. It wasn't meant for it.
All right. I mean, I feel like there's this weird intersection of like, there's like the neocon section who is cheering on like war with China and Russia at the same time, and then there's like normal people who are saying no, that's like catastrophic and like will kill us all, and then there's like the really fringe like far left who are like doomers, like yeah, go ahead, China, war with China and Russia because the U.S. will lose. Um, I don't know, man. Like that's starting to look. If I really like wanted to be like just a meme lord and just act like that was a plausible scenario, I don't know. I just feel like it would be bad for every working class person involved. It's like if you don't already have the bunker or whatever, like you're kind of fucked in that situation. But it's just like I don't get why the U.S. is doing this because I feel like it's very obvious. Like this is not going to pan out well. I just is it just the
It's
general
because
hubris of the
fascism is a
US? Like,
fucking death cult, man. Like I don't know what else to, I don't know how
there's
else
no
to
other
describe
option,
it at
right?
this
It's just
point.
on
Like
it's on rails.
it's on a fucking death drive, and they can't handle any kind of like indication of decline or anything like that, right? So we're lashing out in all directions, And I'm sorry, guys. I know there's people with their hands up and shit like that, but like
I'll keep going.
my only hope is just, and you mentioned that working class people are going to suffer, and just as I mentioned with like the balloon thing, my only hope is that. And I have to cling on to hope because I fucking organize and like I get into this shit. And I just think that I find hope in the fact that not everybody's buying into this bullshit anymore.
Mhm.
There's still too many people for our liking that buy into it. But how many times can you fall for a fucking like, how many times can you fall for an Iraq? I over and over again.
You're really underestimating America here, bud.
I know, man. I
Or
I gotta be
overestimating.
optimistic though, man. Like that's
Yeah,
the only
yeah.
way I can find hope and shit.
No, I know exactly what you mean. The organizing gives me the hope too. I'm right there with you. Brandon, you were first.
I was just going to say, like, I wouldn't be dismissive of the chance that the U.S. stands in an actual like hot war with China, because if they're not already, then they're like looming to be like the global superpower economically. But like everybody loves the statistic that like the U.S. military budget is actually like bigger than the next like 3 countries combined.
8.
I once
9.
sat no, I once sat down and did the math. It's almost the global military budget.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
just about is. Of course, it's
No,
totally
it
wasted.
fluctuates year to year, but there was one year that I checked where the U.S.'s military spending was greater than the rest of the world combined, or at least comparable.
Right.
So, like in a hot war, like a ground war with China, like that's scary shit because like it really doesn't matter who the superpower is. We are spending dozens of times more money, like 1,000% more than China on any given year because their interest is in like improving the lives of the people, and our interest is in eliminating the lives of the people.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
scary fucking shit that shouldn't be like, like thrown away casually, because it's if it comes to that, it doesn't matter who the superpower is. It's the person with the most bullets and the most missiles.
Can I just say real quick, like that is actually the big takeaway from all these events is that, like the U.S. just continually escalating and driving the entire world toward this like annihilation. It's just really weird because no one seems to be talking about it to the extent that it is important. Like for how important it fucking is. And to bring up Katie Johnstone again, it's like Caitlin Johnston's the only one I know. The only journalist that I read who is really talking about this to the level of importance that it is. And sometimes her writing even comes off a little fucking weird. Like sometimes she'll just go off and just post some lyrics one day because you can tell she's really getting in her feelings about the fucking end of the world being as close as it is. And it's like, God damn, man. Like I really wish more people were just cool with talking about some uncomfortable shit like that. And then maybe we would have some kind of general effect on something like that. Like, I don't know. But Nat, what do you got? Sorry.
When I keep thinking about stuff like that, about like geopolitics, like writ large, and like the relations between countries and how people just don't seem to fucking get it, there's like this ironic sort of uh uh disconnect, right?
Attachment,
With
right?
the
Like,
well, but like the way I try to describe it to people is like people on one level, people think of it as like a game, right? But on another level, on the real level, it's not. But these people that think of it as like a game, like you can describe it to them in like real life terms by using sort of game terminology, right? So like if you were to just map like fantasy things onto like real world happenings, like over here you've got the orcs that are the principality of like or whatever, in orc language. And then over here you've got the elves with
hey,
all the
that's
like
Russophobic, bro.
no. I
know.
rebuke that. I will not accept that joke. But and then you've got like the elves and all that, and we're gonna call the elves the bad guys so that I can avoid being appearing Russophobic. But and you explain to somebody everything that the U.S. has done without telling them that it's the U.S. and you tell them it's the elves funding these massive propaganda campaigns against the orcs. You tell them it's the elves that are escalating with, let's say they've got giant magic crystals that can destroy whole cities, right? And like they want to use them, and everybody else has these magical crystals, but like less of them, and they're less effective. Like
Honestly, when I see conversations like that, I leave the server.
I was gonna say
but
these are
for,
nukes
but
we're
for
talking
real,
about,
like
right?
you can use those. You can map on real world, and like the people that normally would disagree with you about this stuff would 100% be like, "Oh, the elves, the bad guys," and you're like, "Well, that's America. That's what we're doing right now." And they're like, "No," and I'm like, "Yes, yes, we are." It gets me and my feelings.
Does somebody else have
Like I
something?
think that level of detachment is almost necessary because it's scary as fuck.
Yeah.
I don't think it's
It's-
level of detachment, though, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but I don't think it's detachment. I think it's just genuine misunderstanding, and like and genuine like victimhood of being a victim of the propaganda that you can't make the connection.
Yeah.
I don't know, like when you see people making the connection, but in like a joking like game kind of way. Dude, when I was younger, I had a friend who constantly joked about being an alcoholic, and he was a raging alcoholic. But the joke.
Okay.
The joke for him was like sort of a depersonalization of the reality. Like as long
I
as he
guess
was
I didn't mean that these people were. I see what you're saying, but I didn't mean that these people were joking about how bad America was or anything like that.
no, I mean like when you talk about people who talk about this like it's a game, that's
Yeah.
what I think of is you take it unseriously because if you address the reality seriously, it's terrifying. It's
Yeah.
like in the context of this, it's the end of times.
Yeah.
Like, you want to talk about the end of history? Fucking bomb everyone back into the Stone Age. There you are, end of history.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've had several people in my real life tell me that I need to stop reminding them how close we are to nuclear annihilation because it's really bumming them out.
It is a bummer.
It's a big bummer.
Yeah, dude, as a guy who's bummed out like 100% of the time, it sucks.
Yeah.
I'm like
that's
this
literally-
close to like quitting my job and just like waiting it out.
Yeah, but then you're like, what do you do? Like, are you like that guy on the street corner with literally the "end is nigh" sign? Like, what do you? I don't
That's
know. It's
better
just
than my job is now. So
probably doesn't
Dude,
pay as well, but
if
My
I don't
heart would
groom
be in it.
if I don't groom my beard for 2 days, I look like that guy already. So
right,
I'm
dude.
there. I'm on it.
I just that was kind of what I wanted to the heart of what I was getting at earlier. I just got said it off the cuff, but like I really wish like more people would just talk about this issue and just how fucking important that it is, because I feel like that alone would do something about it, because like you guys were all kind of getting at it. It's like people have this ironic, like what we're doing right now. It's like we're dealing with it in our own way. We're joking about it in like a semi-ironic way because that's how we are dealing with it. And people who are just considered normies, who, to the extent that they are aware of it, again, will just say like, well, what can I even do about it? Like, I could totally be aware that my government is like escalating possible nuclear conflict,
No,
could
dude,
kill
there's
everyone
so
alive.
much that you can do about it. It's just if I say it, you're gonna have to edit all that out.
Well, I mean, there obviously there are those solutions, of course, but like, yeah, definitely.
like,
I just think the first step is to get more people to like. Kind of wish it was normal for everybody just to be, as much as they were talking about the weather, like literally just talking about the possibility that we are all going to be like kind of burning, in nuclear fire at some point. It's like I just feel like it is that level of importance and should be discussed, and that is kind of the first step. And like Ward, you even posted here in the chat, like there was an article since been removed. The headline was on Yahoo. President Biden warns that the risk of nuclear Armageddon is at its highest point since the Cuban Missile Crisis. 3 top stocks to consider if tensions keep rising. Credit to Alan McLeod for tweeting that with the and captioning, when people say capitalism is a death cult, this is what they mean, because that's dead on. But yeah, would you have Nick? Sorry.
No, just here's a quote from somebody important with respect to not letting this kind of shit go. To let things slide for the sake of peace and friendship when a person has clearly gone wrong, and refrain from principled argument because he is an old acquaintance, a fellow townsman, a schoolmate, a close friend, a loved one, a colleague, or old subordinate. Or to touch on the matter lightly instead of going into it thoroughly so as to keep on good terms. The result is that both the organization and the individual are harmed. This is one type of liberalism.
Nick,
God
I
damn,
fucking
what a
combat
pull!
Liberalism.
love you.
What a pull!
So much.
I'm lucky these guys posted it earlier.
I hadn't even read that. I haven't read that shit yet.
My point is, like, don't fucking let, like, Mike, like you were saying, don't fucking let it go. Like, again, I got into a fight with my dad the other day just because, like, he said something stupid about the China balloon, and I was just like, listen, I said, they're driving you towards the same thing as they did with Iraq and Afghanistan and all this shit that we could list, on and on and on again. And I couldn't let it go. And I feel like an asshole sometimes, but like, I just couldn't let it go because like, we can't let this shit go because the stakes are too fucking high. And like, I guess my hope is that like, is you kind of like impress this upon one person, that it kind of spirals out and like has some kind of like exponential effect where like one person and then the next person, and it goes on and on and on. And then there's some kind of fucking consciousness raised to this shit because I can't let it go anymore. Sorry, that's a personal
Agitate and
rant,
educate.
but like, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. We are on your level, dude.
Like, yeah.
Like, getting energized over here.
Yeah.
I just personally really like that. I haven't read that yet, but we were talking about it in the group chat, and as soon as you started talking, I was like, this is gonna be fucking Mal.
Love it so much.
Before you said the
It's
first
over.
fucking word, I was like, this is fucking Mal.
Oh, it's perfect. Perfection.
Like, not to do too deep a dive on stuff like that, but I do think that there is virtue in thinking tactically about not letting stuff go. Like, we had the sort of thing where, Ward, you called it, that people would be using that picture of Winnie the Pooh with the balloon, right? It was just, racist, not, or liberals not be racist challenge, impossible, right? And then obviously we saw somebody who I would probably consider a liberal but left leaning posted this thing, and I didn't want to comment their thing about it, because when you put something into like a public comment, people double down. It's just the psychology of humans, right? Just what happens. So like, I went into their DMs and I was like, hey, some people might think this is racist, and they were like, well, I'm gonna post balloons. It's like, okay, well, fuck off then.
Well, I'm gonna pop your balloon. Fuck off.
Right? So, but like, we have to balance like the tactical, like the virtue of being tactful and being direct. What is the value, and when do you decide which route to take, Brandon?
Well, that's difficult because combating liberalism, even through that definition, does not mean being so abrasive that no one listens to you, because there still does have to be a tactfulness to it, and that's
Exactly.
not. There's no answer to that because it depends on your crowd. I just like that. Like when we were talking about that earlier, I was just like, man, I'm so bad at that. Like I'm not good at confrontation unless like I'm not the one. If somebody else initiates confrontation, I will fuck somebody up. I will cause a problem. I will cause a scene. But like left to my own devices, I don't. But then immediately I remembered, like, at the beginning of the pandemic, the place that I was working had a company-wide meeting where a couple of people just felt the need to throw out some like gnarly shit about like, oh well, we're only in this situation because of China. And that was when I was like pretty new to like being a full-blown out and out fucking communist. And I just started fights in the middle of a company-wide like 60-person meeting because I'm just like, oh yeah, well, what about this shit? Because that was like when I was fresh off of reading a bunch of fucking shit about China, and I'm like, all right, let's fucking go. You're gonna be ignorant as shit. I'm gonna be ignorant as shit too, but informed about it. Like I'm just gonna be like an asshole, but let's fucking go.
Yeah.
And nobody would actually come at me. It was really like caught me off guard. I was expecting to be in like a near fist fight in a company meeting, and people were just like, "Oh, this shit actually seems like he might have read something. We better not confront him."
Are you saying that they let it go? Are you saying they were using the first type of liberalism?
Must have been liberals.
No, it was just that like in my head, when you confront somebody, they double down and it causes a problem. You can't have a confrontation. You have to have a discussion. But in this situation, I initiated a confrontation, and everybody, like, all these fucking redneck motherfuckers are like, well, shit, I'm not doing this. This is going to be a problem with this guy.
Yeah, I was actually pretty glad. I don't know if Nick can hear us, if his headphones work when he's away, but like I was
I think
actually
he took
really
them out.
glad that I was glad that he brought oh, here he comes. Because we have to kill like about I guess like 12 more minutes at this point. I was actually kind of glad, Nick, that you brought up combat liberalism and started reading from it, because I was debating, like, I was surprised, like, it's a short work. Like we could literally just read it if we wanted to kill 12 more minutes and just like go out with that. But I'm out of topics for the night. I don't know if you guys have anything else that you want to comment on, or anything else you want to bring up, anything else you want to say about what we mentioned so far. But um I don't know.
I just say, like, in combating liberalism, I'm now glad to call so many of you like in real life like comrades now, because like imagine me and Nick hanging out and somebody like wants to start some shit. Like Mike, you've met us now. Imagine the stranger in the bar who wants to start shit with me and fucking Nick.
Yeah, it's funny
Nick,
that you guys are like huge, and it's funny that like I've been kind of corralling everybody. Like I like having the role of organizer, and I definitely do not like fucking ordering anybody around. But there have been times where I got to be like, "Hey, you guys, let's do this. Let's get together." And it's funny that I am by far the smallest and scrawniest of all you guys, and that's hilarious to me. I love
Wait,
it.
Nick, how tall are you?
he's five. He's like 5'4", but he's just as wide.
Oh, I mean, Nick is just like a brick shit house, but like Brandon is
Love it.
is a tree. He's huge.
Yeah.
I'm enormous, and I won't fuck with Nick, dude. I'm glad he's on my side.
Oh,
But yeah, I
man.
got to
Bring a
meet
Lord of
couple
the Rings
guys,
quote
like-
into it. It's like the part in the Return of the King when Pippin says he won't grow any way but sideways any longer, and that's where I'm at. So
Yeah.
just getting wider.
Nick looks like he does squats by hugging a tree and ripping it out of the fucking ground.
And
Love
then
it.
Brandon is an ent. But yeah, I mean, just that's the like the
Yeah,
most of the short
Nick's
side.
just ripping me out of the ground.
I got to meet a couple of you guys. I got to meet Nick, Brandon, and Steve from the intervention, and yeah, that was a lot of fun. But that's also, involved in some of the reason that we've been taking this sort of like month or almost 2 month now hiatus from doing any recordings or anything. And we should also, like, since we do have some other, maybe we got something else we can talk about. I got to read what Ward's just posting in the chat, but
Oh,
we could also definitely do
talk
some
about
plugs.
Syria.
Oh yeah, we could
Before
definitely talk
before we
about that.
talk about that, like you mentioned organizing and we mentioned organizing, I just want to put a shout out there to anybody listening. Just join a fucking organization. Just get out there and hit the streets, please. We need you. I don't really give a shit which one you join. To be quite honest, like I have my preferences, but I just want you out there. Once they're all strong enough, we'll build a coalition. But like, please just get out there and do something.
Once we're all strong enough, we'll deal with the trots.
Well, I wasn't gonna name names.
No, that's what I'm here for, man. I'm here for it. But no,
Yeah, man.
I don't disagree, dude. Even if you're a fucking trot, like they're gonna do more good working at all. Like, I'm a fucking hypocrite because every time I like finally get serious about joining an organization, I have a complete mental breakdown for 8 months. But like, you're not wrong. Like, anything that you're doing in real life is better than doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, that's relevant, Ward. What you just posted. If you want to read that, I don't know
Oh, yeah.
who the plowshares are. Are they trots?
No, they're typically referred to as like an elder church group.
Yeah, they're Christians,
Uh,
right?
Yeah, but they
Also trots. No,
yeah, they
fucking-
consistently protest U.S. nuclear policy, and they've broken onto like secure nuclear facilities before and like chained themselves to like equipment and thrown blood on buildings.
Mm-hmm.
They've been
Tough as nails.
convicted for it. Yeah. But yeah, no, they're out. They're going to be out this weekend protesting a nuclear subbase as well. So if people don't have an idea what to do in response to news that we're so fucking close to nuclear annihilation, it's not even funny.
Yeah.
There's an idea.
I mean, just
Sorry, go
to
on.
this point, like, you know, I organize with PSL locally here, but we've got coalitions like an anti-war coalition in Pittsburgh, and like we bring in like liberals, you know what I mean? Like people,
Mhm.
whoever it is against like a certain thing. And we have our own, you know, obviously like meetings and like viewpoints on things like that, but like we can agree on like some fundamental basis that like war has to stop, right? Like we can figure out the rest later, but like in this immediate moment, like just find something to latch onto and go out and like hold a sign, raise consciousness. You know, it's like I was talking about before about like the exponential effect. Like you talk to one person and you make an impact on them, that's a victory. I went out the other night, you know, we were talking about fucking Leonard Peltier being locked up for 48 years, right? And most people didn't want to talk to us. I handed out one pamphlet and I watched the guy walk away, and I know that some people throw like the shit away that I hand to them. And this
Seen it
guy,
happen.
I was watching, like he stopped under a street light to read it. And that made me feel good because maybe that fucking guy knows a little bit more. So,
Yeah.
you know, again, it's a victory to get one person. It's a victory to get, you know, just to get yourself out there and do that kind of shit, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone recording right now and everyone listening was that one person at some point.
Right,
Absolutely.
exactly.
Absolutely. Good damn point.
I'm good for something every now and then.
Yeah, but I mean that actually raises it. I mean, a good point. I wanted to kind of wrap up the episode if we could, since we do just want to kill a few more minutes. Is like by doing plugs. Like you want to bring up organizations that people could actually join, things that they could do on the ground. But then also we can wrap up by talking about everybody's shows. And since we haven't put anything out on my feed for a while, I can also talk about like my show and any updates that are. But I want to kind of like keep that to a minimum. But I do have some stuff to say. But like Nat, if you wanted to like plug your show, because I know you just put an episode today, and you can
Yeah, I worked on
Oh,
it for
fuck that,
20
no.
hours
Nat,
straight.
stop.
what?
No, he will be too humble.
Okay,
It is the best goddamn. It is the most well-produced goddamn show on the left right now, and you should be fucking listening to it.
Amen.
Thank you. I don't know about that, but
I know, because you're too fucking humble about it, and somebody else had to interrupt you so they could speak truth.
I actually had to take. I'm a little worried about this one, because I expressed why I
The bar
believe
is so high that he's just
I
worried
expressed
about.
why I believe that like certain misogynists take a certain line of rhetoric, right? And it's because so much of capitalism is selling equality to women that doesn't actually exist yet, right? And so that fools men into thinking that equality already exists, and therefore, whenever they see somebody actually pushing for equality, they demonize it and denigrate whoever's doing it, right? But I had to put out a disclaimer in the episode where I was like, these people are wrong. They are wrong to hold these opinions. What I am saying is, this is why they're saying these specific things. But I just am, I'm so afraid of like somebody taking something out of context, and saying that like, oh, this man hates women. It's like, obviously I do not. I made a whole episode about why women are, being the most victimized or being more victimized than other marginalized groups.
I literally just heard you say it. This man hates women.
No, damn it,
heard
wait.
I heard it here.
got him.
You heard
All
it
right,
here,
well, Mike,
folks.
you finally have to edit one of them.
I mean, so
Jesus.
well, Nat, now that you've expressed your worst fears about how your podcast will be interpreted, do you want to actually like give the plug for like what you've put out and like what is to come? Because I know that yours is serialized, and this is something that has been going on kind of with us since we started doing this live shows that you've been on, but like you can't put this out on your feed because your show is so planned out and serialized and everything. And I feel bad for you like to miss out on the content because it's like it's why we do it, right? We all want to get the plays, we want to get the content out there. Kids want it, like, but yeah, I mean, just so what is it that you're actually putting out? And, like, what can people expect over the next what is it like 6 weeks or how long will it be?
It's gonna be a little while before the next one, the next regular feed one. The people who subscribe to the Patreon are gonna get the bonus stuff soon. I'm splitting this season into two halves. I'm working on the 2002 comic book The Ultimates by the English and Scottish creators Mark Miller and Brian Hitch. And if you guys don't know who Mark Miller is, he's the one who did like Kick-Ass from the movie Kick-Ass, and
Okay.
he did Civil War that like the third Captain America movie was based on. In fact, The Ultimates that I'm working on right now is basically the entire blueprint for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and
Boo!
it's awful. It's god awful, and I hate every fucking moment of it. It is peak Bush era psychosis. It's like in that sweet spot right after we invaded Afghanistan, but before we ramped it up for Iraq. So it's like it's this weird nexus of like in response to the Afghanistan propaganda while reinforcing the concurrent Iraq propaganda, right? And it's this story, this realistic retelling of the origin of the Avengers, um, and how they are now a government property that is meant to defend the United States from superhuman red foreign influence. And the next 7 issues, or the next 7 episodes, are coming out this year. But there will be a break between this first half of the season and the one that's coming up. I've actually got a couple of guests coming on. I've got the guy from Existential Comics who's going to be on.
Oh,
I'm
hell yeah.
hoping to get what's his name? Oh Jesus, the guy from Trillbillies, Aaron.
Oh, nice.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah, to come on and talk. A guy named Mike Quilligan, who's a professor of pop culture stuff. He's going to be on there. And I'm hoping to get a guy named Walt Llewellyn who does, as I've told to you all before, the Black Casebook podcast, and I want to plug that one too real quick because it's really fucking good. He's going to be on too. Fantastic writer, and that's my shtick, my spiel.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna echo Brandon's sentiment and say that of course you were too humble about it, but like just to express it, like I always compare your show to Blowback, and as far as like the level of production, like for people who like that level, that depth of fucking like adding scores and like all the what do you call it, like vignettes and everything in between, like yeah, and you're just one fucking guy, and it blows me away every time. Like I cannot stress to you enough, man, how much I do not only it's worse than not give a shit about comics. Sorry, not politics. Comics. I do not give a shit about graphic novels or comics, but it's worse than that. Like I vehemently am anti. Like I just don't like them. Just I feel the same
Angry,
way about them,
don't care.
and I just don't like them at all, and I avoid them like the plague. But I still listen to your fucking show because I like it, and I still am like able to get enough of the characters and the lore that I'm able to sort of keep up with it against my will. And yeah, I liked what you're doing there, and I like the themes you're bringing out of it. So I appreciate that. So but I wanted to go
I
with
appreciate you saying that. That really makes me a lot better about this last episode that was rough to put out.
yeah. But let me go with Nick, and then we'll have Brandon. We can plug your show as well because I know that everybody's been doing stuff, even though like we haven't been doing the live show for a bit. So
Yeah. Yeah, so Nat knows how I feel. I gassed him up enough today. But no, but definitely listen to all of our podcasts. But yeah, so I guess what we're doing on the intervention lately is we're still going to continue with kind of our haphazard approach in kind of exploring events regarding the British and American empires. I think the synthesis is that we want to continue to try to convey that the British Empire really handed the kind of the imperial football off to the American Empire. So I think it's always fun to explore those connections there. I think we're bringing on Comrade Levi, who, he's been a real life organizer with me for a long time at this point. But like he's basically going to be a permanent fixture on the show at this point. So we're really happy to have him. So we're currently, going through our series on Palestine, Zionism, and empire. He's going to be involved with that. And, we'll probably have some other things sprinkled in between, like the main episodes in that series that we're doing. And then separately, but relatedly, we're also starting our Reading Capital series. So we're going to, just read and discuss Capital Volume 1. Some of us have read it before, some of us haven't. So it's really meant to just be kind of like a learning experience that people can kind of, listen into as maybe they go through it for the first, second, third time, whatever it may be. And hopefully, just grapple with what we're saying, the ideas we're putting out there. We don't presume to, understand it fully by any stretch of the imagination. But, hopefully it's an approachable way to kind of engage with the text as well. Because we obviously still feel that it's something important to deal with. So those are the kind of things we've got going on over at the Intervention Podcast right now.
I'm trying to sober up enough to shoehorn my way into the Intervention Podcast.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say this is
You're
now
welcome
my
anytime,
turn.
buddy.
My turn to say a few nice things because I really, really loved your recent Greek episode or the Greek Civil War episode. I didn't know any of that shit. That was a particular blind spot for me, and that episode was very good. I also really liked your Taste of Empire episode. That inspired me to go out and get the book.
Yeah. Well, Steve will hear this and he'll know. And then Joe Mayall at Joe Wrote, really contributed the meat of the Greek episode. So credit to him there for sure. But thanks, buddy.
Brandon, what have you guys been up to over at Cars and Comrades? Because I've been listening to your show, and I think I know more about your car projects than I ever wanted to. Because I could just skip past that part, and I don't every time. I just keep listening while I'm like putting up salads at work. Like,
We've gotten a fair amount of feedback that like the project updates are like very entertaining, and it's like a very personal flavor to the show.
mhm.
And given that like there's only so much leftist history or like activity that you can talk about from a car perspective, it's a good way for us to just connect with people because like a lot of our listeners talk to us.
Yeah.
And we don't have a ton of listeners, but fuck me, I really enjoy the people that listen to our show and engage with us because it's so hard to have this perspective and find people who share common interests. And I don't know, man, I almost look at it like I'm just throwing it out there like hey, I'm trying to make friends who have my interests, and our listeners are like, oh shit, me too. Like, what's up?
Yeah.
Um
I mean, not to sidetrack you, but like there are
I-
some vacancies or vacuums for leftists interested in chud hobbies like that. Like people, there could be a podcast about leftist takes on firearms. If there's, I mean, there's obviously already the SRA podcast, but I mean like something more informal and humorous. But like all of the chud hobbies, like outdoorsy stuff, prepping, any of that shit. Like if somebody's looking to start a white guy podcast, that's where you should go. Just saying.
Yeah.
No, that was our explicit project because like once we started working more with you guys on other projects, other shows, it expanded. But originally, our intention was to like we took our hobbies that we cared about and spent a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of money on, and wanted to make it accessible to people who are, in places where it is all fucking chuds. Like we want people to recognize that like you can be a person of color, you can be queer, you can be fucking anything you want to, and you have a place in this hobby.
Yeah.
And that was a really important thing for us, for white cis dudes to make. But like we've reached out, we've tried to find like other voices to bring onto the show, and it never pans out. But like we're trying to our best to create a space in that world where everyone can feel welcome.
I'll tell
Hell
you
yeah.
what, man. Like I've had somebody reach out to me on Instagram, and he listens to all of our podcasts. Everybody here, and but he particularly mentioned your podcast, and just like his perspective was like I'm kind of on an island, out in this like kind of conservative area of the country and shit like that, and it's just good to know that there's other people out there with these same interests as me. So, I mean, it is good. I mean, I think it's a validation of this idea that like you are offering this space for somebody to come to and just feel like, hey, I'm not completely alone in this godforsaken fucking country, So good on you for that,
Yeah, I mean, we enjoy the things we enjoy, and you want to be able to enjoy that in a genuine way where you're not being obstructed by bigots. fucking
Yep.
racist, fucking every fucking flavor of asshole. So that's what we try and do, and I'm sure that we fall short because everyone always does all the time, but we do our best. And yeah, man, if anybody out there has like an interesting perspective and is into cars and wants to come onto the show, Vic, and look us up. We've got the Cars and Comrades podcast, or personally, like every single one of us will talk to you. And we love hearing anyone else's perspective as long as it's not a shitty one. And
Yeah, I
then
mean, yeah, sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say, even beyond that, like I wasn't even joking. Like I really want to join in with the interventions approach to like reading Capital. I was gonna try and do that this week, but I wasn't able to get the reading done. And in general, like I fucking enjoyed the shit out of recording with you guys on our Pittsburgh episode with the railroad strike.
Oh yeah, buddy. You're welcome. Any of you guys are welcome anytime. So
Yeah, I'm just gonna start showing up at your house, being like, "Oh, I'm recording with you guys today,"
yeah, hell yeah.
and you'll be like, "I didn't even know we were recording today." I'm like, "Yeah, well, sit down.
I'll tell
We're doing
Lord. I'll tell Lord to make pickles.
All right." Wait, pickled what though?
Doesn't matter, dude. It does
Because
not
those
matter.
fucking onions.
Yeah,
I'm
Well, I mean,
so
so-
envious that you all got to hang out in person.
I know. Wait, but before like Turn Leftist goes here, I just want to like gas them up a little bit too, because
No. We don't have that kind of no.
Yeah.
No.
No, come on.
The circle jerk has
other
gone
up.
on
Let it
too long.
happen.
I was literally going to
No.
wrap it up and say that like I'm glad that we all did circle jerk each other. It feels good to do that once in a while, but it's like it's going on a bit too long. It's getting a little excessive. I mean,
Yeah, I was
we gotta
banking
close
on
it
Mike
out.
cutting it off. I didn't want to hear this.
Yeah.
No.
I'm
Real
good.
quick.
Nah, I want to exist in my own head.
You guys are the
I'm gonna
fucking reason.
disassociate.
You guys are the
can't stop
reason that
me.
we're all here and shit like that. I mean, honestly, like you guys, for me in particular, inspired me to get into this shit. Like listening to just like normal dudes, like taking the time to do research that were fucking passionate about shit to get into it. So just thank you guys for the work you've done, and that you're going to continue to do. So I'll try to keep it brief, but
Thank you.
guys,
I appreciate you keeping
deserve
it concise and not making
Yeah.
me cringe too much or blush too much. But like, yeah, I'm gonna just like briefly say, because this is the thing I hate about anybody who announces any kind of like future project, especially if they haven't actually done the work already. It's like we've done like zero prep so far for this, but like just to say minimally that because what it does is then either I'm going to say what I imagine it's going to be, and then it turns out completely different, or now it holds us accountable to people who hear this, and then I have to like actually fucking do it, and then I look like an ass if we don't actually like get off our asses and pull together. But like that is all just to say minimally that we are changing formats. Probably going to change. Yeah, we're definitely changing the name and some members, but like I think it's safe to say that we're going to bring in James Rewald. He was on an episode with us. Really cool guy, very charismatic, and has since obviously been bitten by the same bug as the rest of us, because I've been keeping up with his content, and he has
Stop by
gone
the
down the
tank.
fucking rabbit hole, man. And I am really loving like the research that he's doing, and he's going to fit perfectly well with the format that we are going to adopt, which I'm not going to say too much about, just to say that like we're changing it to a different format. But most importantly, I want to keep around the live show. Obviously, we're going to keep doing this. This is very easy to do, easy to put out, and easy to be consistent with. Whereas what we're going to do now is going to be a little more serialized and everything. I'll leave it at that. But
If I could throw one thing out there that's just me being corny for 10 to 20 seconds, like first of all, everyone on here, I love your shows. And
likewise, bro.
Yeah, same.
much more than that, I'm glad that the live show is back as of today. Like we took our break, but like I'm glad that like it became a collection of podcasts that I can genuinely say has turned into like genuine friends and comrades.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So like, I appreciate all of you. Happy to be back. Happy to have y'all in my life, because yo, like hanging out with some of y'all in real life, that shit got heavy and it was personal, and you were supportive and wonderful people, and I love you all.
Love you
Oh,
too,
yeah,
man.
man. Love you, comrade. Yeah, I had a feeling that the first one back might get a little into some territory that we were not usually in before. But yeah, so if this is a little rough for everybody, if this is a little like I don't know,
It's
just off
okay
the
to be.
cuff, like,
It's okay to have feelings. Actually, it's more okay on the left to have feelings than fucking anywhere else, because we're actually here for each other.
come on, Brandon. You got to understand. You know me well enough to know that I cannot mix my vulnerable mic with online ironic persona mic. Like it's not how it works. So
And you know me well enough to know I can't separate my two.
yeah, I got you, bro. All right. Well, with that being said, we're going to wrap it up here, and then we're going to see how this one turns out once we remove all the dead air. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll put this one out soon.
All right,
See you
thanks.
guys.
Night, everyone.
Bye.